Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's Ultimate Fashion History's Fave Film Fashion. This time around we're heading to 1959 for the absolutely sumptuous Imitation of Life, suggested to me by lovely YouTube subscriber Catherine Reeves, and also suggested by the father of fashion forecasting, who is also the father of me, David Wolf. So, Catherine and Dad, thank you for such a wonderful suggestion. Of course, Imitation of Life stars one of my personal favorites, Lana Turner, with costumes by Jean-Louis. I love it in movies of this era when you get gowns for, or jewels for, and then the name of the star here, Gowns for Lana Turner by Jean-Louis, Miss Turner's Jewels by Lequin ici. So glamorous, as were the opening title credits with all of these diamonds falling against a velvety black background. So sure, Jean-Louis did Lana's costumes, and he really was at the top of his game during this era. From the mid-50s to the mid-60s, Jean-Louis really did tap into that kind of sumptuous mid-century glamour, although he is probably best known for designing the gown that Rita Hayworth wears in 1946's Gilda when she sings "Put the Blame on Mame." Anyway, although Jean-Louis did the costumes for Lana Turner in Imitation of Life, the rest of the wardrobe, gowns by Bill Thomas. Now, his name isn't as famous, is it? And yet, Bill Thomas was nominated for a plethora of Oscars, and he would win one the following year in 1960 for his costumes for Spartacus. He did some wonderful gowns for the supporting cast in Imitation of Life, like this beautiful satin dress for Susan Kona here. I love it, but we're really going to be looking at Lana's costumes. I'd like to make a couple of remarks about Lana Turner before we begin. I never really understood her appeal, to be honest with you, when I was young, but then when I got older and became a more mature lady, I fell in love with her. She has become something of a role model to me. I am particularly fascinated by her hair. It was sort of immovable, this astounding platinum dew that never moved. I am quite obsessed with her, to the extent that I often try to style my hair like Lana Turner's. That's sort of my hairdo every day, and I know how much product it takes to keep a hairdo like this in place. I don't look as good as Lana Turner, that's understood, that's accepted, but then again, I do not have the $1 million wardrobe that she had in Imitation of Life. That's what it was billed as. That's about $8 million in today's money. I don't think this can possibly have been true. She doesn't wear that many dresses, however, pretty good publicity for a glamorous movie. Imitation of Life was based on Fannie Hurst's Potboiler and was actually a remake of a 1934 version starring Claudette Colbert in the Lana Turner role. It was produced by Ross Hunter and directed, of course, by Douglas Sirk. Now, when we think of Douglas Sirk movies, we think of gloriously glossy and glamorous fluff. But although it is gloriously glamorous, Imitation of Life is far from fluffy. It actually addresses some very pertinent and important issues, most namely race, but also the perceptions of women, the perception of aging women. When is a woman past it? Can a woman pushing 40 still pursue her dreams? Does a woman have to sort of play a man's game to get to the top? Some topics that we are still talking about. We're talking about all those topics, aren't we? Isn't it time, 60 years later, we had addressed all these issues once and for all? But take a look at this poster. The stars: Lana Turner, John Gavin, Susan Kona, Sandra Dee. Where is Juanita Moore? For goodness sake, she was the second lead in Imitation of Life. And yet, even though the movie addresses race very sensitively, And pertinently, Universal did not think it would behoove the success of the movie if an African-American actress's name appeared on their posters alongside Lana Turner and John Gavin. In fact, in the opening credits of the movie, her name is the last to appear in the cast. Universal kind of got around this ridiculousness by saying, "and introducing Juanita Moore," when her name came up, but this simply wasn't true. She was not being introduced. She had featured in over 30 movies before Imitation of Life. So I just wanted to make that note before we get caught up in the glitzy, glossy, glorious glamour of Lana Turner's wardrobe. The story begins in 1947, although you certainly wouldn't know that, judging by Lana Turner's lovely but very 1950s sundress with a cinched waist. I don't know if it is cotton or seersucker, but it's very pretty and very simple. What really gives her outfit in these opening sequences that touch of Alain is the chiffon coral headscarf tied around her hair at the back, which is really the only indication we have that this might be the 1940s, and the way that the scarf is matched so perfectly to her lipstick shade. This is one of the things that I love about Lana Turner. She was always so impeccable. It's something that I really aspire to because I'm rather a scruffy person. The look is offset brilliantly by these tortoiseshell sunglasses. Lana wears a lot of scarves in Imitation of Life, in fact in all of her movies during this era, and the way it is tied in this sort of mid-century modern style, very Audrey Hepburn of that era, very Kim Novak of that era, but I think Lana Turner did it best because she's my favourite out of all of those. That's again a look that I often attempt, but to not much success. My headscarf always slips off the back of my head, and you can't put bobby pins in to hold it because the bobby pins would show, and Lana Turner never needed bobby pins, so why do I? Again, epic fail. Well, of course, there's a scene where Lana wears the 1950s version of the little black dress. It's very nice, but it's pretty standard 1950s cocktail wear. What I like is this wonderful camel-colored wool dress with matching coat with cheetah trim. Wow, so chic. I love three-quarter length sleeves. They were so popular in this era. I do wish they'd come back. But speaking of things of that era, take a look at this. I love this still that I took. First of all, take a look at the dress. We never see her really from the waist down in this cocktail party scene, but one can only guess, probably correctly, that it was New Look chiffon from the waist down. You see a little hint of it, but mainly she's photographed from the waist up in all of this sequence. But look at the ruching on this halter neck gown. Absolutely stunning, as are the jewels. But the reason I love this still is that I didn't even notice until I took the picture how many mid-century modern signifiers there are there. The painting she's standing in front of course, it's the typical Paris street scene that was so popular in the 1950s because, of course, that's when we became obsessed with Paris. Think about movies like An American in Paris and Gigi. So everybody had a version of the Paris street scene. But what I personally love the best, and those of you who know me will know what I'm going to point out, of course, that Easter Island statue there, which absolutely speaks to the cheeky craze, that obsession with Polynesian pop in the 1950s and early 1960s. So it's all going on there in this scene. Let's get back to the gown. The halter neck is tied at the back by this very long, these two long pieces of chiffon that just float when she moves. One of the prettiest dresses in all of movie history, I think, but I particularly love the ruching. Well, this is a firm Fave Film Fashion favourite from Imitation of Life. Wow, what a lot of alliteration. Firm Fave Film Fashion fan favourite. I feel like Nigella Lawson. This absolutely slinky embossed lame evening gown with matching evening jacket with mink trim. It is a sleeveless gown, as you can see, but it is also backless. It is really fitted to Lana Turner's body. Absolutely gorgeous, don't you think? But this has to be one of my own favorite outfits from Imitation of Life. This wonderful hot pink patio party ensemble of skin-tight hot pink capris teamed with a flowing scalloped chiffon little top. Very long at the back and short at the front. That's not a great picture, but I want you to see how beautifully this hangs. I absolutely adore that. And I also love the way that these pink lucite beads help form a neckline. Why don't we wear patio party outfits anymore? Oh, I really do belong in the wrong time, and I'm guessing that some of you watching this video probably feel the same. Now this is a spectacular dress, and there is no still or no photograph that can possibly evoke just how sparkling this strapless New Look evening gown is. There's another picture which sort of gives an idea of how sparkly it is, but honestly, when you see this gown on film, it almost looks like it's made out of crystal or cut glass, or even as if it's sculpted out of ice, glistening in the moonlight. It is exquisite. Now, when I first saw this movie, in fact, every time I've seen this movie, I always just assumed that it was a gown that was encrusted with rhinestones or diamante. But when I took a close-up, I'm not so sure I was right. I think what's going on here to give it this completely shimmering crystal-like effect, I think the gown is actually silver lame, and then over it there is a silk thread crochet lace, and then a few diamantes to really add that little bit of extra sparkle to it. Either way, it is a stunning gown, and all the more so when teamed with this wrap of dusty pink satin. Of course, the most delicious gown in the whole movie was the one that was the most impossible to photograph. Why don't these people stand still? This is why they call them moving pictures. I did catch a little glimpse of the full-length gown there. You can see it is strapless chiffon, and it is very, I think, inspired by Grecian ideals and the Grecian drape. But what makes it so interesting is the way that it is all based on the idea of ties. Although the bodice isn't tied, when you see it on film, all of the white looks like it's tied around the bodice, and then Jean-Louis really brings this idea of ties home by having this green chiffon sash thread through the bodice, tie at the back, and then just flow. It really is this sort of confection of chiffon, but very, very striking too. I think he may have been a little bit inspired by Jacques Fath in this one. I love it. Who wouldn't? I love this scene because it pretty much evokes my evenings, lounging in a dusty pink velvet robe with 3/4 length sleeves and fur trim, in a sprawling bedroom with white padded sofas, having my feet massaged by a beloved friend. Why isn't this my life? It really should be. There are two great outfits going on in this scene. First of all, take a look on the right at that really lovely gown that Sandra Dee is wearing, by Bill Thomas, of course, with the 3/4 length chiffon bishop sleeves with the little daisies appliqued upon it, and that high starched chiffon collar. But hey, it's so impossible to look at anyone other than Lana Turner when she's on the screen, and unfortunately I couldn't get a good photograph full length of this wonderful skin-tight sleeveless pencil dress she's wearing, with the incredible hat that turns into a very long scarf. I did, however, manage to get a pretty good picture of the back of her hat, and I think British viewers will understand the reference when I say that this hat always reminds me of a walnut whip. I couldn't get a good full-length picture, but in my research and faffing around on Google, I found this. This is a Jean doll and a reproduction of the gown that Lana wears in this scene, and you can really see that scarf, which actually comes down from the hat. It's attached to the hat, going all the way down to her calves. But don't you love this reproduction? Every detail is there, from the cat-eye sunglasses to the brooch to the earrings to the shirred gloves. It was created by the incredibly gifted Diane on Whidbey Island. I'm going to put a link to her website in the description part of this video, because even if you're not a doll collector or part of the Jean doll community, I think you will really appreciate her impeccable reproductions of classic film costume. Here is the dress from the side, and you can see how long that scarf is. But what I love particularly about the outfit that Lana Turner is wearing in this scene are the shirred gloves. Of course, wearing gloves was completely de rigueur in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Not so much in the 20s, but from the 30s onwards, everybody wore gloves until the early 60s. I wanted to bring them back. Last year, I decided to start a revolution and bring gloves for daytime in summer back. This is me with my friend Huy Vo, who is the director of the Vietnam Fashion Academy, and we're being interviewed about fashion history. And there I am wearing shirred gloves. I was in Saigon. It was 95 degrees, 100% humidity, a beautiful place, Saigon. But to wear gloves in the day in that heat shows real dedication to the glove revival. But these are my favorite, red shirred gloves with matching shoes. Lana would be proud. She would also be proud that this is the exact dressing gown that I own. No, it's not. Why isn't this my life? Is there no justice in the world? How mid-century is this? A tangerine coral patio party pantsuit with ankle-length skin-tight pants, which I couldn't photograph because she was moving around all the time. But at the bottom of the pants, there's a tiny little bow, teamed with a chiffon scarf in the exact same hue, skin tight and buttoned at the back. I love this. Why don't we live in a world where people have patio parties anymore? Because then we could have patio party pantsuits. I have no idea what Lana Turner is wearing beneath her satin evening coat in this scene, but it really doesn't matter. Not when it looks like that. Here it is from the back, in this sumptuous sort of slate grey satin in the trapeze silhouette. And of course, Yves Saint Laurent had just launched the trapeze silhouette, and look at these spectacular jewels. I'm really going to enjoy talking about this nightdress because I get to show off, and you know I enjoy showing off. On first glance, it just looks like your standard pretty white nightdress. Aha! Take a look at the back. This is modeled on the robe à la française, the sack-back gown that some of you who may have watched the Ultimate Fashion History video on the 18th century, you just might remember the sack-back dress, also known as the Watteau dress, because it appeared in so many of Watteau's paintings. Here it is again, and you can see the sack-back. And there it is, more full length. You can really see that Jean-Louis was sourcing his fashion history for this one. Oh, Lana, step away from that candle so we can all see that lovely, sweet tie detail that goes all the way down the front of the skirt on this very minimalist and ultra chic wool dress. There's also the tie detail on the 3/4 length sleeve. So often when we think of 1950s fashion, we think about the new look, we think about the return to femininity and all of that. But I think the other big story of 1950s fashion really was minimalism, an idea that really hadn't happened before. We see it a little bit in the 1920s with Chanel. But apart from that, there really was an idea that more was more in fashion. But then in the 50s, there really was this surge of minimalism, where less was more, and it definitely tied into a greater aesthetic, didn't it? Think mid-century modern architecture, all those clean lines. What I love about this dress is that slit neckline. I can't really talk about what Lana Turner was wearing in the final scene of Imitation of Life because I could not see through my tears, but what I do know is that she was wearing this very chic black feathered hat. Just a note about the dazzling jewels that Miss Turner wears in Imitation of Life by Lequin. Take a look at those diamonds, take a look at those emeralds. And what about that sweet little gold brooch with diamonds sort of dangling from it? And then that idea in reverse, the diamond stud, but with sort of a gold waterfall coming out of it. Why isn't this my life? I particularly like this necklace of diamonds, gold, and turquoise. I think that's turquoise. I don't really own jewelry like this, so I'm not so sure. I love this necklace, and I think that Jean-Louis must have loved it too, because either he or Universal had a very good relationship with Lequin, because in the very same year, Doris Day wore the very same necklace in Pillow Talk with the very same earrings. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this week's very glamorous dive into fave film fashion. If you have any suggestions, contact me through my website, amandahalley.com. If you enjoy chatting about this kind of stuff with friendly, like-minded individuals, join our Facebook group, The Ultimate Fashion History on Facebook. And of course, just click the little circle to subscribe for more fave film fashion and fashion history in general. I'll be back next week, and until then, as always, thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye.